Hey, what is going on, you guys? Today I thought I would teach you how to do the clip-on mod for the R3. It is a highly asked modification. Like, a lot of people ask me for this modification, and I decided to do it to my own Yamaha R3. I have since reverted it back to standard for my own reasons, just due to lane filtering and everything in traffic and cutting through real tight quarters. I found that it was binding up too much and it was just my own irritation, so I reverted it back. But this is definitely a really good modification that is well worth doing. So without further ado, guys, let's get into this. Let's teach you how to do this so you can be doing what I'm doing right now, carving up those twisties. This was a fantastic road, so let's get into it. So pretty much what you want to start off with is, if you look at the top triple clamp of your Yamaha R3 here, you have two 5mm Allen keys. They have little black caps on them, so you want to remove those and also remove any accessories that you have in the way, like phone mounts. Mine is the quad lock mount, and you want to remove them. Next, you want to do the big center nut. Now that is a 22mm nut in the center, and I used a single hex 22mm tube socket, and using a breaker bar is preferable for this because you definitely want some leverage. It is quite tight, so you want to put the steering on lock here like what I'm displaying, and then you want to do it anti-clockwise. It is not a left hand thread, so don't try and over tighten, and it will be firm, so just make sure you position yourself over the top of the bike and undo it. Once you undo it, it's pretty much fine. Undo it a little bit, but don't undo it completely. Pretty much the same scenario as undoing a steering wheel on a car. So next you want to get a 6mm Allen key. Now here I've got a different set, so it's a hex set, so I can use it with 3/8 drive ratchet, and these are to do the ones, the actual clip-on and the upper tree clamp. Now to undo the two bolts that are on top of the triple tree clamp, you want a 5mm Allen key as displayed here, and I'm using the hex bit as well. I'm just displaying the hex bit that I use. You can use an Allen key, but I would prefer that you actually use a hex set because it is a lot easier, and you do not want to round these bolts out, guys. These are bolts that you do not want to round out, I can assure you. But if you don't have the attachment, just use a 10mm socket. It is perfectly fine to hold the Allen keys in place. As you can see here, I'm undoing the clip-on and the upper triple tree clamp, and literally they're firm, but they're not overly tight. You got to remember these are alloy, so they're actually the alloy threads, so you don't want to be over tightening them, but you want them firm enough so they don't come undone. So just try and gauge when you actually pull it off for the first time. Now I'm just undoing the two bolts on top. These are really loose. As you can see, I undid them with minimal effort whatsoever. I chose to sat on the bike. It's a lot easier, it holds the bike stable, and it prevents it from falling over if you're actually working on it. These bolts are really easy to remove once you get them out the way, and with loosening the side ones, you'll notice that your clip-ons, most of the time, they'll just flop down to the side. Now once they are undone, you can literally wiggle them from left to right and just slide them off. Now just be careful, guys, of obviously any cables and things along those lines. Obviously on your throttle side you have your throttle, you have your brake master, and on the other side you have your clutch and your indicators and stuff like that. So you definitely want to be wary of this. Now when it comes to undoing this upper clamp, you want to undo the bolt in the center a little bit, and then you want to lift up on the clamp so it gets the initial release and breaking the seal with the bolt there, as I did, because it's the same formula as removing a steering wheel on a car. If you've ever done that, if you remove the bolt and you reef up, you may actually have the thing come up and smack you in the face and bust out your teeth, and that's not what you want. So just make sure you use the bolt there until you get that initial break of the seal, and then you can slowly work this back and forth. Now this is a tedious job. You just got to work it back and forth and just making sure that you're keeping an eye on everything, like cables. I've still got some cables in the hook there in the rotator, and which I realize about now. I think I realized that, yep, I can see those, and that was what was holding those triple clamps down. So I removed that, and then that triple clamp just comes straight off. No issue in the world. Now, pretty much what I'm saying here is try to aim to line up the bolts. So those two 5mm Allen key bolts that went in through the top, try and line them up with the ones underneath. You have two brackets underneath that upper brace or clamp. Try and aim to line them up, and the holes are a through thread, so they go all the way through. So one bolt comes up from underneath and the other bolt comes down from the top. So if you want to actually do this job 100% properly, you can actually put bolts up from underneath, and it will hold your clip-ons from moving around or loosening up. I've seen a lot of people and their clip-ons have come loose, and that's just plain simple because they haven't done it properly. Now, once that's done, you literally slide your clip-ons back on under the clamp, and now you're left with the tedious process of trying to put this clamp back on. Now this is trial and error. You just got to knock it down inch by inch, make sure the steering's straight, just keep tapping it down with your hand. I used just the side of my fist. You can use a wax mallet or something along those lines and just slowly knock it down, and once you get it down to the point, make sure it's all lined up, and then put the bolt in and tighten up the bolt. Now this bolt, you want it to be tight. You can do it to manufacturer specs if you want to put a torque wrench on it. I just did it bloody firm. I didn't go over the top with it because you can actually strip this out. But you just do it firm with a breaker bar, and I've never had it come loose. Now you want to try and straighten your steering. Make sure your steering is straight so you can work on the clip-ons. The clip-ons, you just wiggle them back and forth. Make sure all the cables are in the right place, and pull them up as high as they can get. Pretty much pull them right up to the base of that upper clamp. Push really firm against it. You will still get the throttle cables rubbing on the actual body of the R3, like the fairings, but it's better when they're right up at the top. If you want to go one step further, you can actually remove those bolts underneath, which I told you about earlier, and you can actually put a bolt straight in from the base. With a spacer. That's how the racing R3 guys do it for the R3 Cup. I spoke to a few guys and that's how they do it properly. Here I'm just lining it up, so you can either line it up with the crease there on the top of the triple clamp, or you can actually line it up with the bolts underneath. Now this is again a trial and error thing. Obviously when you get it roughly in line, you can do your measurements, and also you take the bike for a ride and work out the kinks that way. But you want to pretty much do these up firm. Don't go too crazy, but you want them firm. You don't want these coming loose. Like I said earlier, I've heard a lot of people that this is the point that they fail on. They don't do them tight enough. It's a real fine line of doing them too tight or too loose. And with mine didn't come loose. I did them firm enough, and I didn't have an issue in the world. Because the last thing you want is these things coming loose when you're going down the freeway or something, or going through the twisties. Now once they're on and they're all tight, you want to pretty much check all operations of the controls. So at this point I'm still trying to get the throttle one aligned properly so that I can actually tighten the throttle one. The throttle side is a little bit more of a pain than the clutch side. The clutch side is really easy, but the reason why the throttle is such an issue is because you've got so many cables, so many throttle cables, and you've also got the brake line and the brake master cylinder there, and so you just need to work around with that, but eventually you'll get it tight. Now, once they're both tight, what you want to do is you want to put the steering from lock to lock. You want to check the operation of it, make sure that they don't bind up. Now, I'm saying brake lines, because your brake line will rub on the fairing. That was another reason why I reverted this mod back. And also check your clutch and throttle operation. Here I've actually started the bike and I'm putting the handlebars from lock to lock and making sure that it's not pulling on the throttle as I'm turning, because you don't want to be doing that when you're leaning through corners, obviously. Now, once it's all done, this is pretty much what it should look like. I've added my quad lock mount back on, so if you follow my quad lock instructions and you do have a quad lock mount, you can do it with the reverse mod. I used it multiple times. I've gone through all the operations of all the controls, made sure they work. I am showing that it is rubbing on the fairings here, because I wanted to let you guys know that you will get rubbing on the fairing. You can change that. I've heard of people doing some stuff, but this is the bolt underneath that I was telling you guys about. You can actually line that up with a spacer on both sides and actually do it correctly, because that's the correct way of doing it, doing the proper relocation. And then in the top, you just want to put those bolts back in too. It keeps them there, and you can mount things off them if you so choose. Now over here, I actually walk over to my Yamaha R1 and I'm comparing between the two of them, and I'm actually telling you about that bolt that is underneath, because as you can see here, that's the way the Yamaha R1 is done. Now this R3 is in no way going to be the same as an R1 or an R6. I have done a video on this, so if you want to find out if this modification is worth it, or I think is worth it, I do have another video on my channel that states and is completely on, is the Yamaha R3 clip-on relocation mod worth it? And so you can check that out if you want to see any more details. But anyway guys, if you like this video, give it a huge thumbs up, go ham on it, it really means a lot to me. Also, feel free to join the ride, subscribe. I do tutorials like this, I do moto vlogs, and I also upload daily observations, whether that's good drivers, bad drivers, whatever be. I also upload that as well. Alright guys, until next time, and if I sound weird, it's because I've actually got a cold, and I've been trying to get over it. So, until next time guys, peace.